Call to order the Public Works and Safety Committee meeting of Monday, April 2nd, 2018. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Manty and second by Councilman Danforth. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the March 19, 2018 meeting. Moved by Councilman Y, second by Councilman Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 3 is authorization to advertise for bids for the park and recreation paving projects for the City Park, Cemetery, and 21st Street West Bike Trail Improvements Project number 1819. These are in the budget, right? So I look for a motion and second. Moved by Councilman Bueller, second by Councilman Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 4 is award of contract for the 2018 milling and AC mat construction project number 1814 in the amount of $812,417.50 to Dunnick, Inc. I look for a motion and second. Moved by Manty, second by Y. And discussion. Shane, do you want to just tell us a little bit about this?
We got outstanding prices on the mat or overlay project this year. But in fact, we got such good prices, we're going to have to look at possibly finding more streets or places to spend our budget. So that's good news. So we've already started to look at that, and we'll vet those through with the street department and try to expand on that. But I apologize. I accidentally shut off the wrong tab on mine. So if you would open the AC mat portion, I guess. Essentially, we got such good bids because of competition was prevalent in our bidding this year.
I don't think we've ever had a second bidder on our overlay project.
No, and in fact, we have a portion of our project that dropped below $60 a ton, which is, as far as I know, it's been a long time since that's been an occurrence in our bidding here. So we also tweaked our mix designs a little bit, so we're not quite sure how much of an impact that had, but we've gone to a more common denominator on our mix design so that it's compatible with other, like the county work, and compatible with a lot of the other private work in town, especially when it's with these mill and overlays, because we have older pavements, and this is more compatible with that older pavement as well. So looking at new ways to spread our dollar. So with that, I guess we got outstanding bids. Dunnick has done our beautiful job for us in the past, and recommend award for the AC mat.
All right. Have any other comments or questions?
Shane, you said we may do extra. How many blocks extra are you looking at, or miles?
Well, that depends on location. We're going to try to find some streets in the same vicinity as this project, so we don't end up with absorbent mobilization costs and different things like that. So we do have a couple of extra streets in this area that we'll look at, and we'll depends on how wide these streets are and how long they are, et cetera. But we'll try to reasonably expend the money that we have. Otherwise, what we can't spend, we'll roll over in next year and use it going forward. So
we had a $900,000 budget, and
right.
We're at $812,000.
Well, but we carried over $125,000 from last year, so we're actually looking at
over $1 million.
Just about $1 million, and we've got some good candidates to add to this to flesh this project out.
Okay, Councilman White.
Will we be able to identify those in a timely manner and get those bid then? And
yes, what we would do is make award, then we'll work with the contractor on a change order once those are identified, and bring that back to the council for approval and
so it was voted down.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't have to rebid unless it's a certain percentage. over. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 6 is discussion of Willow Creek floodplain study update mitigation project estimates. Shane,
Mayor,
bring that
Mayor,
up?
you skipped 5.
I'm sorry. We'll go back to number 5. Authorization for the mayor to sign the joint powers, maintenance, and financial agreement with the South Dakota Department of Transportation for the Highway 212 Phase 1 project. And I'll look for a motion and second. Moved by Danforth, second by Lallam. Discussion. Shane, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. South Dakota DOT, as we all are aware, is doing a construction project on Highway 212 from Highway 20 to Highway 81. That work is scheduled to be completed in 2019. During the design phase, the city, through H220 Watertown Focus Group, had engaged the DOT in wondering if there were some aesthetic improvements that could be done. A couple of the ideas that were tossed out there was enhancing the guardrail of the new bridge that will be constructed over the Big Sioux River. There's some fencing that was installed around a stormwater pond that could be also enhanced. And also we did consider other like raised planters and aesthetic lighting fixtures and things of that nature. The only two that vetted out with the Phase 1 project was the aesthetic railing on the bridge and an aesthetic fence around the stormwater pond. So this agreement is a standard agreement that the city signs with every DOT project, and it specifically vetted out the difference between the estimated cost of the original materials, the chain link fence type fixtures that would have been installed by the DOT, and then looked at the requested enhancements. And if you look at the attachments A and B on this, it identifies that the railing for the bridge will be an additional $19,260, and the additional cost for the special fence is $726, for a total of about $20,000, just a few dollars less than that. And so if we enter this agreement, we're committing ourselves to those costs, and we would have to budget those costs into our 2019 budget. So we'll look at that coming forward with that budget as well. And then just for disclosure, a good portion of the work that's in this agreement is related to Watertown Municipal Utilities work, and that has been vetted by their board and approved. So they've already executed this document on behalf of the Watertown Municipal Utilities, and now it's the city's obligation to finish our portion of the project.
Thank you. So other than those two items that he mentioned, it's a pretty standard agreement. Any questions or further discussion? Councilman Danforth?
In regards to the bridge, the railing there, for our $20-some thousand, whatever that is, what would we get versus what are we getting if we go with this? I mean, right now we're just saying it's going to look more aesthetically pleasing. I don't know what that means for $20,000.
So what we worked with them on the details was what the standard is basically a chain link fence that looks like a galvanized chain link fence, basically. And the railing that separates the pedestrian traffic and the edge of the bridge or water, where you'd step out into the water.
So I understand. We're going to have a bridge, and then we are going to have sidewalk on what, one side, both sides?
I believe it's on the south side, if I remember right. But anyway, there's this walkway, and it is
separating it.
Yep.
Similar to what we'd have on 3rd down by Max Steel, I think, down there. Isn't that correct?
I guess I'm trying to envision that one, but
Yep.
the chain link.
It's just that railing in between there is what we're talking about.
Yep. And then what we've designed or helped them design is a fence that looks very similar to the fence that we just put in front of the zoo. So it's black pickets, it looks a little bit more pleasing to the eye and something better than chain link.
is it gonna stand up to the plowing and the snow and the grit
Well,
and
there's
grind and gravel?
There's a concrete median that's between the roadway and the sidewalk. That'll take the brunt of all of that, and the fence is purely on the edge of the bridge, protecting the pedestrians from falling off the bridge.
Any other questions? Councilman Vilhauer?
Just to clarify, this is strictly dealing with areas from Highway 20 to 81. In other words, if there's anything that we want to do from 81, the rest of the way out to, 19th, in the next phase, we still have a chance to weigh in on that at some point.
Correct. And a couple items, there's another stormwater pond down there, or Roby Creek more exactly, that could use some enhanced fencing. It right now is chain link. And another thing we would consider is maybe some enhanced lighting fixtures instead of the standard lighting. So we are talking with the DOT and continuing on those discussions.
Any other questions? All right, I think I took motion second, right? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Okay, now we will move on to discussion of Willow Creek floodplain study update, mitigation project estimates. Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. Approximately 1 year ago, we reached out to Banner and Associates. There were some known anomalies with the Willow Creek floodplain project, which was done a number of years ago. And the reasoning for this relook was partially due to the extension of the Willow Creek floodplain out over the area where the new softball complex was built. And the Willow Creek floodplain has a much more conservative base flood elevation system on it than the adjacent Roby Creek floodplain. So what we wanted to look at was what would we possibly need to do to the Willow Creek floodplain to separate it so that we wouldn't have to put so much fill and effort into the softball complex area. And so the end result is a quick cost estimate was prepared for 2 mitigation projects as a potential. And if you want to go down to the drawing, the south one along 17th, go a little bit further south, please. That's mitigation area number 1. And it would be essentially a berm that would be constructed from 20th Avenue up to the existing berm that surrounds the soccer complex. And then the upper mitigation is mitigation area number 2, which is adjacent to the parking area that those 2 areas could be built, which would effectively lower the base flood elevation of Willow Creek as it extends out over the softball complex and the surrounding area. So with that, the 2 cost estimates that were prepared, mitigation area number 1 has an estimated cost of $243,100, and mitigation project number 2 is $91,000. Now, the reason these are that expensive is that all of the engineering and materials and all of the things that would go into that would be done such that the FEMA could certify these dikes and levees and effectively eliminate the extension of the floodplain. Without that, we wouldn't get recognized any of the work that we would do. So that is one reason why these estimates are a little bit high, and there's no final design work here yet either. So they could come down upon final design. But any questions?
Okay, could you bring up the map, whoever's in control of this screen? The reason that this is pertinent is that we are contemplating an ice arena in a location which has 2 overlapping floodplains. Does this show the site? Go down a little bit, Pete. No, on the map. Show the map, the top of the map. Okay. The ice arena location is, you can see where the softball complex is and where the parking lot is. Directly north of that is land that has been earmarked for an ice arena, and it has two floodplains. Roby Creek floods into that area at one elevation, and Willow Creek floods into that area from the other direction. Willow Creek is higher, so we're talking 4 or 5 extra feet of elevation, right, Shane? From Willow Creek.
Approximately, that's
This would
correct.
not remove the Roby Creek floodplain designation, but it would remove the Willow Creek floodplain designation. So it would still be in the Roby Creek floodplain. You'd have less elevation to contend with. And so if that site is selected for an ice arena, we probably want to do this because the cost of elevating that structure and flood-proofing it without these flood control devices in place would be very high. And another thing to consider is that FEMA has used LIDAR to look at all of our floodplains, and LIDAR is very intricate, high-resolution data, which is better than the data that was used for either the Roby Creek or the Willow Creek study, but it's not enforceable today. And with their LIDAR data, they're not showing this location being in the Willow Creek floodplain even without these. But if we build it now to be in compliant with the regulations, we have to build these structures. So that's going to be a conversation that we have in the near future. Councilman Danforth.
Yeah, Mayor, how much would, I'd heard numbers of what it would take us to provide fill at the proposed site of upwards to, I think I've heard as much as $600,000 or something like that. So how much would spending this $330-some thousand, how much would that reduce the impact on the site as far as the elevation requirement?
I don't know that we have those numbers yet.
We, at some point, we probably will, though. I mean, that
yes,
would
we'll
be.
have to have those numbers.
Okay, and the second question I have is if we were to find out that, I think, did you call it LIDAR?
Yes.
LIDAR? That in fact took the Willow Creek floodplain out of this, and would there be any benefit to our community to have these two things done anyway? Would there be any benefit, or would that, in fact, at that point, then just be money
Well,
we
that's-
stuck in just for the expediency of the
It's
project?
very possible that would be money wasted, but we won't know until the study's done, and the study's not done. So it's kind of a catch-22. We're stuck. If we build this ice arena before FEMA does another model, this model that we have today was done, 20 years ago, and we have better techniques today. But it costs a lot of money to redo that study, and we haven't done that. And FEMA hasn't done it either. So
Who did the LIDAR?
that FEMA, but that's just an approximation. I mean, it may come out different.
Okay. That's their first quick look at it, basically?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Why is the phase one part of this, the project one, so much more money than the project two?
It's bigger. It's a lot
And
bigger.
a lot taller berm. The berm up
More
on phase two might only be 2 feet tall, and the other one's going to be at least 4.
Any other questions?
I do have one, Mayor. Shane, do we have any data from 1997, the flood? Do we have any records that shows where that water went at that time in the ice arena area or the soccer field area?
I would assume we do. The flood in 97 was completely different, though. I don't think Willow Creek was a primary driver at that time. I think that was primarily driven by the Big Sioux River. And so Roby Creek and Willow Creek were impacted by backwaters, not inflowing waters. So it would be really hard to compare that data to this flood scenario that we're discussing here.
Right. Any other questions or comments? All right, is there any old business? Any new business? There's no need to go into executive session, so I'll look for a motion second to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Wise, second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock for the city council meeting.